And that is my cue to start the show. Welcome to another edition of the Hard Rocket Sports Show, live from high atop Hard Rocket Sports Studios in beautiful scenic Monroe, New Jersey. We are your 2-hour weekly get-together. We bring you all the biggest news from around the world of hard rock, heavy metal, of course, the wide world of sports. And guys and girls, welcome to the show from March the 27th in the year of our good Lord 2025. And it's officially spring. Yes, I know last week was the official day of spring. I think it's the 20th or the 21st. But to me, when they crank up the baseball season, it's spring. That's right. Baseball, for all intents and purposes, opened up today. I know we had some games last week in Japan, and that's great. No problem. But nobody cared. Nobody cared. I'm sorry. Unless you lived in Japan, nobody cared. So today opened up. And I have to tell you, it's a little bit, I'm going to say 47, 49 years for me of opening day baseball meaning something. As a kid, I would say probably by the time I was 9 or 10, you looked forward to opening day. Now, used to run home from school. The game would kick off whatever time, 1 o'clock or 3 o'clock, and you catch a few innings. And the games were on Channel 11, so you watched every opening day. And it just was a different feeling once opening day and baseball kicked off. I know football has taken over for baseball as basically the national pastime. And I want to get into it tonight, whether football or baseball in New York is a bigger thing. Now, maybe it's because the Yankees and for somewhat the Mets have had better seasons the last decade. But I want to say overall, what has been the bigger sport? What's the bigger sport in New York right now? So we'll get to that when Jeff's on. Maybe we'll bring it up with my dad. But there's a different feeling when you turn in a baseball game, especially opening day. Now both teams opened up today. Yankees won, Mets lost. Good baseball games either way. Not so great for the Mets. But we'll talk about it. We're going to have the doctor come on about 7:30 with his first appearance. And we'll talk a lot of Mets baseball with the good doctor. But, it is such a really good feeling. I was sitting in my office today with my good friend Bobby Ficinelli, or actually really Robert Finelli. I call him Ficinelli. But me and Rob was sitting in the office and we were working, and we're doing our thing. And he's like, I got to hear the song Center Field. And I told him YouTube it. We YouTubed it and we watched that. We watched Willie. We watched and listened to Willie, Mickey, and the Duke. And it really is. It just, I love football season, but it's once a week. I mean, I know there's more games on now, but your team plays once a week. Like right now, you can watch, 5, 6, 7 Yankee Met games a week. It's 162. There's just something special on a warm summer night. Windows open, maybe there's a decent breeze coming through, and you got a good ball game on. You're having a cocktail or maybe just a soda, and you're just hanging there. There's something special, and maybe the younger generation, my kids, will never have that feeling. But I'm glad I was introduced to that as a kid. It was some special. And again, back then, 3 channels. There were nights. There were 5 channels. I mean, you kind of want to include. Channel 11 and Channel 9, the only thing on was Yankees and Met baseball. And you used to flip back and forth a little bit. The other nights there was, repeats and, maybe you're lucky you get a good episode of Happy Days. But there was always something special about baseball season. And I think that is always going to be lost on the younger generation because I don't think the impact, there's so many other things now. I'll go back to it, like I said all the time. When I was a kid, baseball was on almost every night. There was a game on, Yankees, Mets. They were almost on every single night from April through September and into October. There was a Yankee or a Met game on almost every single night. And, football was different. First off, it was basically relegated to Sundays. And then it got into Mondays. And that was it till the playoffs. And when it competed, there was nothing for baseball to compete against. I mean, hockey was on, the local teams were only on when they were away. So baseball was just so dynamic. It was the only game in town, literally. So there was nothing to watch. You watched every inning of every Yankee game for the most part because there wasn't anything to do. You didn't have video games and the internet and cell phones. And, you came in when I was a kid, whatever time it was, you ate dinner. Maybe you got lucky to go back out for a few minutes. But normally by 7:30, you were in the house and you were in the room at your little 13-inch black and white, or if you're lucky enough to have a color, and you were watching the Yankee game or the Met game, I guess, if you were, if that's how your family went. And as old as I get, and as much as I love football, there's always something special about baseball. It's just, I know it's slower and there's less excitement, and there's so many games, but there's something special. There's something special about opening day. There really is. I'm glad I got home. I got home about 5:00, and I was able to catch the last few innings of the Yankee game and probably half of the Met game. And it's always nice when baseball kicks off. It's almost like the year is officially kicked off. Like you're out of that nasty weather and you're creeping into the nice weather, spring into summer. And then by the time it ends, it's the fall. And if you're lucky enough, your team's still in it. Yeah, and football's just kicking off now. It's really, baseball is such a great sport. I don't think it'll ever recapture what it was. And it was a national pastime because all the other sports, just you couldn't see it. Hockey was never huge, as bigger up in Canada than it ever was here at that time. Basketball was always big, but basketball is an outdoor sport that people played all the time. And again, same thing. You could not catch Knick games at home unless you went to the game until maybe the 80s. So baseball was basically a one-dimensional thing. I mean, come from June until September, there's nothing else but baseball on. There was all the shows were in repeats for the summer. So the only thing baseball was one-trick pony. I mean, nobody else was. There was nobody else and no competition. So of course, baseball is a national pastime. But now football is clearly the national pastime of this country. I mean, it's year-round. The only time you really don't get any football news nowadays is June. July, from like the end of June through training camp. That it seems like everybody goes away. Everybody does their thing. All the mini camps are over in June. Once those mandatory mini camps finish up, teams scatter and you don't see them again until training camp in July. So, but football being year-round, the internet, I would tell you there's more younger kids probably watching replays of NFL games from last year and the last few years on NFL Network than watching live baseball on TV. It's a shame. Now, again, betting has helped it, much like football. People are betting on baseball more and more. So, and again, I know a lot of young kids, but my kids especially are huge basketball fans, so they're watching a lot of basketball. Playoffs take forever in basketball and hockey. So baseball's not the lone attraction that it used to be. But again, for some of us in my generation and older, it's still nostalgic. Flipping on a baseball game and watch it. Now, again, I grew up with the likes of Phil Rizzuto and Bill White. Turning on today and I got to listen to Joe Buck and Joe Girardi. I don't even know who the other guy was. It's not the same. Your first game, your home opener should be your announcers. While I'm not the biggest Michael Kay fan, I would have preferred to listen to Michael Kay do the game with Cone or Flaherty or whoever, Paul O'Neill, who's turned into that generation's Phil Rizzuto. So, but listen, baseball's back, and I'm looking forward. I look forward to it every week. So, we'll talk a lot more baseball tonight when Jeff pops up. He's trying to get on now. He seems to be having a problem. We'll get my dad on in a minute, and at about 7:30, the good doctor will be joining us to talk Mets baseball. I think he wanted to come on and spew about how great his Mets were going to be and how bad the Yankees were going to be in the Maloikia. But for game one, it didn't work. So thanks for everybody tuning in. We've been off for a couple of weeks. I was away for a week, and we're back at it. We should be pretty well straight through. We got about a month before the NFL draft. A lot of Giant stuff to talk about tonight with not only Jameis Winston signing, and then right after that, Russell Wilson signing. So we'll talk a lot of Giants tonight, their draft, a lot of baseball. We'll talk Judge versus Soto and that whole conversation. And whatever else pops up into everybody's mind. I think Jeff's on now, although I don't, he does look frozen. Let me see if I can bring him up and see what happens. Nothing. Jeff. Yo. What's up there, Gumati? Gumati Lou popping on. So big win for the Yankees and a tough loss for the Mets. You know, getting shut. I don't think they didn't want them not getting shut out. They scored a run. But listen, it's day one. You know, I'm not going to pick apart the teams and the lineups and who got hits and who didn't. It's just nice to get the opening day started. I guess both teams will be off tomorrow, back on Saturday, and didn't understand what that was all about until last year. Somebody said somebody asked the same question, and the answer was they do opening day on Thursday and no game on Friday in case there's a rain out on opening day, and then they move it to the next day. So that's why they play Thursday and come back on Saturday. So just for the record, so the Yankees and the Mets, I believe, are off tomorrow and back up on Saturday. Good win for the Yankees today. A little tough in the ninth with Devin Williams. I'll try Jeff one more minute. Let's see if he gets back up. I see he's having problems. Nice to see Austin Wells kick off the game with a home run, leading off first Yankee, I think, ever to have a leadoff home run on opening day. I like this kid. I liked him last year. I think his defense was ahead of his offense, which wasn't supposed to be that way. But he's the bat's starting to come around last year and now obviously today. Volpe with a home run today. So the two young guys immediately making an impact. Judge driving in a run. So a good day. I think Cabrera drove in another run. So good day for the Yankee youth. A lot of the Yankee farm system coming through today. So that's always good to see. And lots to talk about with that. So you know what? While we're waiting for Jeff, let's get my dad on. Let's talk to him. And let's see where we go from there. What's up, Pop?
What's up, Tom? I was listening to your description. You were pretty good on a lot of the things.
Okay.
Baseball was one of the few sports that played almost every day.
Right. Yeah.
It was in the warm weather. It was nice to watch.
Well,
Football you couldn't watch. The Giants had to have a sellout if you wanted to watch them.
Right.
They played at home.
Yeah. And listen, I mean, it was, you know, basketball. I mean, up into the 80s when cable really, even into that, you know, when the Rangers or the Knicks were at home back in the 70s, you only saw road games. You never saw the home games. So, you know, it wasn't until cable came out and they wanted to show you all the games, you know, that it got a little better. But, you know, come June, once the Knicks and the Rangers were out, Islanders, whatever, you know, New York became a pure baseball town from basically the end of May on. And, you know, there was baseball every night.
Yeah, football is very popular because, again, the Giants play once a week.
Right.
Thank God. Jets play once a week. Thank God.
Yeah.
But baseball is 6-7 days.
Yeah. You have 5 games at a minimum usually at a week. So, come, most people, when your team is out of it in hockey and basketball, are done for the year. Not a lot of people are watching, Edmonton and Montreal in June, or in May in the playoffs. So once it comes to that, you're following baseball, and baseball's on every night. So, come middle of May through September, baseball's a one show is its only show. All you're watching is baseball. So if you're a baseball fan, it's 5-7 nights a week. You can catch it. Sometimes you turn on, it's a bad game, and sometimes it's a good game.
You got to remember, baseball back then was always paid during the day.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
you were in school, you didn't know, even the World Series,
Yeah.
every game was paid.
But essentially, that even though the Knicks were back then and the Rangers were playing back then, and for the most part, the Giants have been around since 20 something. Baseball was it. I mean, I don't know how much football was on TV back in the 50s and 60s. Maybe it was every week. I'm not 100% sure, but
No, it wasn't.
yeah, hockey was. I remember as a kid, hockey was sparing in the 70s. You saw Ranger home games, Nick home games, and you had the occasional national game. But the only sport that was big at that point was baseball.
Uh, Football you saw every other week because the Giants would play one game at home, the
Right,
next game on the road. And when they were on the road, you could see it.
right.
But when they played at home, they didn't have that. They had to be sold out.
Yeah, there was the blackouts back then, but yeah, I mean, it'll never turn back. It'll never get bigger than football. I don't believe ever again. Football has just turned into this between fantasy sports and betting now online. Nothing will equal the NFL. It's just too big. So, but baseball's still
Well,
baseball to me and to you. It's still baseball.
it was a good game today.
Oh, absolutely.
Little that relief pitcher
Williams.
reminded me a lot. Yeah, Williams reminded me a lot of Goose Gossage.
Okay.
He was
Oh.
a good reliever, but he come in with a 10-0 lead, and before he won the game, it would be 10-9 with
Oh.
bases loaded.
Yeah,
That was Gossage.
Yeah, I'll give him a little pass. It's his first game with the Yankees. He's playing his old team, so I'm assuming he was all hyped up. Now, if I were Boone, I would have left Weaver in. I thought Weaver flew through the 8th inning.
I agree.
I would have just left the kid in there and finished the game. But I get it. He wanted to get the guy. It was a nice situation. It's 4-1. You figure you come in there, you get even if you serve one up, you get a cup. But he started walking the place, and thank God there was a couple pitches that the Brewers swung at, and I was like, oh my God, that was ball 4. And but you get through it, and hopefully he settles down now. And but I got to tell you one thing. It definitely bothered me that he had a beard. I'm just saying.
Really?
I'm not used to it. I get past it. It's fine. I think that I'd rather the beard than all the scriggly hairs and stuff out of the hats. But yeah, it definitely bothered me a little bit that he had the beard. But again, it's opening day. Yankees win. I liked it that the young kids had a good day. Wells starts the game off with a home run. Volpe gets a home run. Judge drives in a run. Cabrera gets one. So I thought it was a good day for the young team, and wins a win.
Look good.
Yeah.
But it's the beginning of the season.
That's it. So it's one of 162.
Yeah.
Got a long way to go. So, but it was funny. I came home. I couldn't find the game. I'm saying, oh my
Yeah,
God, is it
I
on
know.
one of the apps? How could you have opening day on an app? And then I looked in the paper and I saw it was on ESPN. And I got stuck listening to
Well, I heard
Buck.
them, the Yankee station,
Yeah.
say we're switching now to ESPN.
Oh, okay.
So we
Yeah.
knew.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, yeah. I called, like I said, I got home. It was probably the 6th or 7th, probably 7th or 8th inning. So
Yeah.
I got the last couple innings, and then I switched over and watched the end of the Met game, which was a good game. I mean, I don't know if you saw the end of the Met game, but
Yes, I did.
Soto swung at a really bad pitch. That
Yeah,
was surprising.
that's shocking.
Well,
Very
again,
shocking.
I think it's the pressure a little bit. I'm sorry. Here's a spot. They're down 2 runs. There's 2 guys on base. Bodman and I, the season opener, and I think he was just pressing to try to get a big hit there. And
I'm sure he was.
I'm sure if he comes up 10 more times this year, 7 of those times he'll get a hit or get on base. He's just that good a hitter. Today, I think he put a little pressure on himself to try to do something a little bit more, and he swung at a really bad pitch. I mean,
Yeah, it was outside.
that was ball 4, easy. That loads the
Yeah.
bases for Alonso, and at that point, anything could happen. But he swings half-heartedly, and it's strike 3. So it is what it is. But baseball's back, and it now gives you a little something on a warm summer night to throw the windows open and watch a couple of good games.
Should be nice. Should be nice.
Absolutely, absolutely, Pops.
All right, Tommy, I'm going to let you go.
All right, Dad.
Hopefully
Okay.
Jeff will come.
Yeah, hopefully Jeff will
He
show
had a
up.
lot of trouble with that. I know what they're Santa Claus for.
Yeah,
A
exactly.
new
Yeah,
computer.
yeah.
I hope
Jeff.
so.
Yeah, me too. But all right, I'll check in with you guys tomorrow, and I will definitely see you guys over the weekend. Tell Mommy I said hi, and I'll talk to you later.
Okie dokie.
That's my Pops. He checks in every week with us, and it's always good to talk baseball with him. Again, Jeff's still trying to get on, but doesn't seem to be having much luck. In the meantime, we'll continue on with the show. We got a lot to talk about. Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston in the Giants quarterback room. What does that mean for the Giants? What does that mean for New York football this year? New York Giants football. Are the Giants still going to draft a quarterback? Are the Giants still going to? Will they alter their plans? I think it altered, but we'll wait for Jeff. I'll stay out of that one for now. Sort of swung at that pitch just so Yankee fans could smile. No, I don't smile. I don't root against the guy. I like the guy as a player. I like the way he approaches the game, Finelli. I'll disagree with you on that. I think he just put too much pressure on himself. That's a guy who, in a month from now, would never swing at that pitch. I think he went up there today trying to make something happen. When you sign a $760 million contract, there's pressure. When you leave the Yankees to go to the Mets and you tell everybody, hey, this team's got a better future, you put pressure on yourself. And I think that pressure just got to him a little bit today. I think Juan Soto, again, like I said, if he came up 10 more times this year in that same exact spot with 2 out in the nights and 2 runners on, I think Soto 7 out of 10 times is going to find a way to get on base or drive in a run or do something to keep the inning alive. Today just wasn't one of those 7 times. It just, but I honestly, truly don't have any hard feelings. And, I would just say if again, it's game 1. But what you don't want if you're the Mets is a 2-month start like he did last year. You don't want, Alonso and Lindor and Nimmo and the whole crowd not to hit. And they didn't hit today. Now, again, they faced a good pitcher. Framber Valdez is one of the better pitchers in the league. Against one of the one of the better teams, and I think that they just ran into it today. But if you're the Mets, you can't go 3, 4, 5, 6 games not hitting, driving in 1 run a game. You're the Mets. You need to, even if you're losing, get out there and hit the ball, because right now you can't count on the pitching. Holmes. Whatever he pitched, 7 innings today, 3-run ball, he kept him in it to win it. So good start for Clay Holmes. There's no doubt that's a good outing for a guy like that. We'll get into Mets a little bit more with Carmine in about 7 minutes. But if you told me right now what my biggest fear for the Mets is their rotation. You can't go into the season, Senga's your number 5 and your number 1 pitcher. Now, I know it's opening day, so maybe he's not classified as the number 1, but if your opening day pitcher is Clay Holmes, you got a couple of issues. I'm sorry. Clay Holmes was a guy who couldn't get through 1 inning as a reliever. You're now asking him to get through 3 turns of the batting order, or at least 2 turns of the batting order, and get major league people out, and he hasn't done it. So, to me, there's an issue with Clay Holmes that if I were the Mets, I'd be concerned about. Again, last year, the year before, he couldn't get through an inning, let alone a turn. Hold on. Yes, frozen. Sorry, I'm talking to Jeff. But, the Mets have their issues. Now, if you hang in there for 5 minutes, Carmine will be on, and we'll talk a lot of Mets baseball for the first few minutes. For a little while with Carmine. We'll talk a little Yankee baseball maybe with Carmine. I'm sure he's looking forward to harassing me. And then we'll get into a lot of Giant football, little draft. Again, remember, April 27th, I believe, is the draft. And we'll be doing the draft show right here. How you doing, Leonard? Long time no see, my brother. How are you, my cousin? Big win for the Yankees there, Leonard. So Leonard's back. He's a big baseball fan. And but, yeah, if you're the Mets, you can't get off to the season like you did last year. Last year, their rotation was surprisingly good. Now, it could be surprisingly good this year, but I don't think so. You're still counting on Senga to stay healthy. Peterson may be your best guy in that rotation. I'm not sure. So McGill, Clay Holmes. So this Met team is going to have to hit. Now it should. Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Vientos, Nimmo. That's a pretty good 5. But if you're going to get off to that same start that you did last year, then the Mets are in big trouble because the pitching's not going to save them like it did last year. The pitching kept them around, and it was surprisingly good. Well, I didn't think they would be that good, and they pitched their asses off. And then eventually the hitting came around, but the hitting came around really in Vientos and Lindor. Alonso didn't really do anything till the playoffs. Beatty was terrible, and I was surprised Beatty didn't start today. But okay, we'll see. And again, here's the problem for Soto in this lineup. Last year, hitting in front of or behind Judge, it's nice. And then even had Stanton, who had a decent year around getting hurt. This year, if Lindor gets off to a bad start and Alonso doesn't hit, Soto's not going to see a pitch. He won't see a pitch. I don't know if they'll adjust and move Vientos up into the 3 spot. I don't know how Mendoza will adjust, but he doesn't have it. And let's be honest, folks. If you're a Met fan, be honest. Up until the second half of last year, most Met fans would say that Lindor's career as a Met had been a disappointment and certainly not worth the contract. Now, last year, MVP type. Should have probably won the MVP. So, but before that, average, above average, maybe you could say, pretty good, but nowhere near the level that he should have been in. So for me, he can't regress with Soto behind. Now you think he'll get better pitches. They don't want to put him on base with Soto coming up behind him. But again, Lindor gets on, Soto gets on, Alonso ground ball will pop up. Soto's a guy who needs a little protection. Now, you theoretically could have it. Well, I'm not saying he won't. And you can flip-flop it around a little bit. There's some moves that the Mets could make. And I think eventually you might see it where Vientos moves up to the 3-hole if he hits. Well, let's see. If Alvarez comes back and he hits, that could change up the lineup. So, but Soto right now is going to press. There's no doubt. He can. Anybody tells me different, what I saw in that at bat was a guy who wanted to get a big hit in that spot. And yeah, the contract's on his mind. The statements about the better futures with the Yankees. So to me, I think it's a great signing by the Mets. I called it from the very beginning and said the Mets would sign Soto. But at the end of the day, and we're going to talk about it with Carmine when he comes on. There'll always be that conversation, Judge or Soto, or maybe not forever. But to me, there's no doubt in my mind that Aaron Judge is the much better player. Soto's a great hitter. Judge is almost as good, if not as good a hitter, and a much better fielder. So, be careful on Soto. I saw him play a little bit of right field for the Yankees, and it wasn't always pretty. Now, he threw out some guys at the plate. I thought it was okay, and we'll see how that plays out. But this Met team, yes, people excited. They got Juan Soto. Here we go. 90 wins. We're going to make the playoffs. Very possible. That is a tough division. The Braves are going to be healthy this year. They get Sandoval signed Pablo Sandoval for. Oh my God, come on! Is Pablo Sandoval still around? Oh my God, Sandoval Ferry Hawks. So to me, where's I going? I lost my train of thought. Sorry. Soto. I was talking Soto and the Mets. So again, let's go back to it. So the Mets. this year, 90 wins. I think if you get to the playoffs, they're a tough team. Bullpen, I think, is okay. But I would be a little nervous of the bats, especially early on. And I would be a little concerned about the rotation. Now, again, Stearns, Cohen, they may tinker. I know they got this kid Sproat down in the minors. Maybe they can bring him up. So there's some answers for the rotation. If you're staying in there, but the Braves are going to be better this year. I think the Phillies have the best rotation in that division, and might have the best team in that division currently. All right. Now that doesn't mean get to the playoffs. Look at last year; they get knocked out by the Mets, I believe, in the wild card round. So there's no guarantees. So if you're the Mets, just get to the playoffs. Just get to the playoffs. But what you don't want is a regression year from Lindor. What you don't want is another blah year from Pete Alonso, right? You need Vientos to get better than last year, or at least equal last year. You need Alvarez back, and you need the Alvarez who hits, not the Alvarez who didn't hit. So again, it's a baseball season. We'll be talking baseball as much as we can. I still don't see Jeff popping up. I don't know what happened. So right now I'm talking to myself. I'm still waiting for Carmine to pop in. I'm trying to drag my feet on little baseball topics right here. I'm trying not to do too much baseball. Let me see. We get to the Judge Soto thing a little bit more. I read it in a couple of different publications this week. I hear the conversation on the radio sometimes. I don't listen to the fans as much as I used to. I like Boomer. I hate Giannotti. The midday guys with Tierney and Sal Greca, I can't listen to Greca. I just can't. His voice is like nails on a chalkboard. So I do catch Evan Roberts and Tiki in the afternoon, and I do like a little bit of the entertainment value, and there is some good, strong sports talk there. But, I'm listening this week, and they're all talking about Judge versus Soto. And listen, I'm not saying this because Soto left the Yankees. Soto's a great hitter and a really good baseball player. He's not Aaron Judge. I think Jeff's up. Let's try to get him on right away. Jeff, you there?
Yeah.
There you go. They're on now.
I don't understand what the fuck is up with this thing.
I don't know, but we finally got you, so that's the good news. All right,
Yeah.
We got the show officially starting. So, Jeff, let's do it the right way and kick off the show like we do every week with Jeff. How was your week?
Good. Everything is good, man.
Yeah. Okay. Good to hear. Louis, I'm with you. I think this is the worst FAN lineup ever. I mean, I go back to I listened to the FAN the very, very first day they turned on the mics as WFAN back. I think it was 87, if I'm not mistaken, or 88. And this might be the worst lineup ever. I mean, it's impossible to listen to the first two shows of the day. I never listen at night anymore. I used to listen in the middle of the night. Too many other things to listen to, and I'll catch a little bit of Roberts. He is a geek. I like Tiki, and I catch the show in and out. But not a huge fan. But Jeff, been a long week for me. A lot of work and meetings and a lot of craziness this week. But we're back at it. Lots to talk about in the world of sports. Yeah, me too, Louis. I do too. I'm Carmine's supposed to be on, so I'm Jeff, you there? Jeff.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah. You're a little. Yeah,
Can you hear me?
I hear you. Yes, I hear you. Yes.
I don't know what's going on. You were fading in and out too.
Yeah,
That's not a good thing, right?
Are you there now? You're good?
I'm here.
Okay. So
I'm here.
I'm going to guess you want to talk more Giants right out in baseball. So I'll hold the baseball conversation to see if Carmine shows up. If he doesn't, no problem. If he does, we'll adjust. So I'll take your impression. Okay. So we left the air 2 weeks ago. The Giants had Tommy DeVito as their quarterback. We come back 2 weeks later, and not only do we get Jameis Winston on basically a backup quarterback deal, we now have Russell Wilson as well. Jeff,
Did
what's
you see
your
that
thought?
coming?
No. I'll be honest with you. When they signed Winston, I immediately assumed that Winston would be the starting quarterback for the year, and they may go back and bring in a Drew Lock or somebody of that ilk to back him up. I did not see the Russell Wilson signing after that.
I got to be honest with you. I mean, I couldn't care less who they signed and everything. But here's my questions. Why did they go after a quarterback that was basically hasn't really done much in the last 2 seasons, at least, if not more? And with the money they spent on him, I thought that Jameis Winston was actually a good signing. I think that I personally would have rather have seen him stick with Jameis Winston and just, pay him the $8 million basically on a 1-year deal, if I'm correct.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah,
And,
both have 1-year deals. Yeah.
But I mean, Jameis Winston at $8 million a year is a lot better than Russell Wilson at almost $21 million a year.
Well, Russell Wilson's 10 if then he gets, depending on how many snaps he gets, and if they make the playoffs, So let me tell you, let's say this. If Russell Wilson starts and gets them to the playoffs, I think you're happy to pay him $20 million.
Well,
You know what I mean? So I'm with you. But to me, you're spending $18 million on 2 quarterbacks. And I think the reasoning behind this is the Giants want to be competitive. So they didn't want to bring in any quarterback. They didn't want to bring in another Drew Lock again or Gardner Minshew. I think they were looking for a legit NFL quarterback, which Russell Wilson is. Now, do I think he's got anything left in the tank? No. I think they're just hoping if he can do what he did for Pittsburgh last year, I think they'd be happy. If they could get themselves to 6-7 wins, be competitive. And I think the thing with those 2 guys is they are not going to draft a quarterback at number 3. Now,
I would hope not.
Well, some people want them to draft a quarterback at 3, and I say don't. I say now you got 2 quarterbacks. So let's say Wilson goes down in game 4. Jameis Winston is a legitimate NFL quarterback. Whether he's a great quarterback, I'm not going to argue, but he's legitimate. You could get through a season with that guy, your quarterback. What if I were the Giants? I would take the best player available at that point. That helps you. And then if I could go in the 2nd round or 3rd round and grab a guy who I think's got potential, I would make that move. If I don't, then I don't, and I wait till next year's draft, which should have much better depth at the quarterback position. Now we'll see what happens.
That's kind of my point.
Go ahead.
All right. I feel as though that, one, I think they would have been better off. Well, of course, they know who's coming out and everything next year more so than we do.
Yeah.
Okay. And what Joe Cloak, I just want to give my condolences to you for your
yes,
buddy Jasper there, man. That was terrible to hear. Anybody that has a dog knows that it sucks them.
Yeah, Joe. Our condolences on losing your puppy. I can tell you, as happened to me, it's happened to Jeff, and it's one of the worst feelings in the world.
Yeah. I'm sorry, man. My condolences, but
thanks for popping up, Joe.
Back to what I was saying. If they had gotten Winston, the money that they're spending now with Russell Wilson, I keep Winston and Wilson. That's another thing too. I don't know what the fuck. For what they spent on Winston, smart money. For what they spent on Wilson, they should have went someplace else and maybe try to patch something else up. You know what I mean? Even if it was for the year, I agree that maybe they shouldn't go after a quarterback this draft at all.
Yeah.
Other than Dart, the kid from Florida, and Shador.
Yeah.
Sanders. I mean, I think I've heard 1 or 2 other names that are starting to creep out, but nobody seems to be sold on any of these guys.
Correct.
So why force a pick? Why force a quarterback? Try to get help for this team now.
Yes.
And
I agree.
I would have agreed. The Jameis Winston trade, it was just funny because it's Jameis Winston.
Correct. Sure. Yeah. Listen.
It's you. Yeah. That's why that was funny to me.
Absolutely. 100%.
Once they went after Russell Wilson, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with these guys?
Well, if you think about it, here's why this whole thing makes sense. And again, I'm no fan of Russell Wilson. I think he's a team killer. I think there's a lot of issues with it.
You've been saying he's overrated. He's
absolutely, 100%.
Seahawks. Now you got him.
No, and I agree. I think he was over. I think he's been the most overrated quarterback of this generation. I think he's been done for years to a certain extent. The only thing I'm saying is, I think either one of those guys, give them a chance to at least be competitive at the quarterback position. They're not going to win 12 games. They're not going to sneak up on anybody. All you're hoping for those two guys is that they make some plays, get the ball to the right people, and you are competitive. The Giants don't have to win this year. They have to be competitive. And they did not want to go into the season with another, a guy who had no chance to be successful. Listen, Russell Wilson went 5-4 or 4-5 last year as a starting quarterback for the Steelers. Could he do the same for the Giants? Probably. Winston, I don't know what he can give you, but he can still sling it. So the Giants they were looking for a reason not to draft a quarterback in the first round of this thing and not take Sanders or Cam Ward. Okay, now Jeff, this could still happen. If the Titans don't draft Ward and the Browns pass on him, he could fall to the Giants at 3, and they could draft him. That's a very good possibility. I think Ward goes 1. I think Travis Hunter goes 2. Now the Giants are on the clock, and I think they take Abdul Carter, the big monster defensive lineman. And here's why. Because I think the Giants are trying to go back to their roots, and they're going to try. They've already shored up the secondary. All right, the secondary is better than it was last year. Okay, and it was decent last year. And you're going to bring another defensive lineman to go in there with Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau, and the Giants are going to try to beat the crap out of you by rushing the quarterback and being able to cover on the back end. Now, can the Giants take Travis Hunter? Here's the question. What position do you want Travis Hunter to play? So that's the questions for the Giants. They could, it could be I don't think the Browns take a quarterback because they've been so bitten in the ass by quarterbacks in the first round that I think they're going to take the most surest player, and I think that's going to be Travis Hunter.
Who did they got? Daniel Brown? No, they don't. He went to the Colts. Who did the Browns get? They got somebody. I can't.
Yeah, they just picked up somebody in the free agent market. I'd have to look it up.
I can't remember who it was.
Hold on, I'll tell you in a second. Who did the Browns sign as a free agent QB this off season? And the answer is, let's see. No. They did that does not tell me. It says Jameis Winston, but it can't be. Oh, that's in 2024. Sorry, that's last year.
No, definitely
not. And 2025. Let's see if that helps. Browns quarterback lands with Giants. I don't know. It's not telling me.
Kenny Pickett.
Yep, there you go. So Kenny Pickett, in all likelihood, could be their starting quarterback this year. But again, could they? See, here's the problem. Here's the problem for Shedeur Sanders, Jeff. Even if you think there's a chance he could be a good quarterback 3 years from now, whoever the coach is, Deion Sanders is going to coach his kid from Colorado there. And the minute things go wrong, it's going to automatically, you're going to listen to the rumors every day. Deion's going to be the coach next year. Deion's going to be the coach next year. Deion's going to be the coach next year. So unless somehow, and I don't care what Deion tells you, the guy lies through both sides of his mouth and through his ass. So to me, you better be sure Shedeur Sanders is your guy and that you're going to play him right away. And I don't think either one of the top 3 or 4 teams are going anywhere near him. Now, maybe the Raiders jump on it. And the big rumor seems to be the Jets taking him at 7.
If he's available, I saw that, yeah, which is another sad thing.
Yeah, so, to me,
as far as the Jets go,
yeah,
all right, you know that Justin Fields is not the answer. Okay,
No.
What they should do right now is just they have a quarterback, just like when Michael Vick was there. He's going to give you different options. Okay, use him for that. What's the worst that happens? You play him for 2 years and he sucks. Okay, what's the best that happens? You play him for 2 years and you say we got to re-sign him, and you lose him in free agency at best. Worse, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Give him a chance. Try to build the team around what he is right now, because that's the only chance that you have. And even if you don't keep him and you go someplace else, you don't know. You could use him as trade bait.
I think
you don't know.
I think in the thought process, if you're the Jets, for me, you're coming in with a rookie head coach, right? New system. I think, and think about it this way. Where did Aaron Glenn come from? He came from the Detroit Lions, right? What did the Detroit Lions do the last few years that maybe nobody did better right now? They had 2 great running backs, right? Jahmyr Gibbs, right? And the other kid, what's his name?
Montgomery.
All right? They threw the ball with Goff when they had to, and they played really good defense.
Yeah, but Goff is a way better quarterback.
No, I'm not disputing that. No doubt about it. What I'm saying is, if I'm the Jets, you got 2 good backs, right? We all know that the kid Hall is a good back, and the other kid who backed him up last year. You play, to me, if I'm the Jets, I'm going to put the best defense I can out there. I'm going to run the football. I'm going to take Justin Fields, and I'm going to run as many RPOs as I can, and I'm going to throw the ball when I need to, and not when I have to. And if you can keep him down to throwing the ball 20 times a game, and you can run the ball as well, now the question is going to be, obviously, what's been the big problem for the Jets, as it's been the Giants' offensive line. So can the Jets keep an offensive line healthy? Can they move the football? If the Jets can run the football with those 2 backs and Justin Fields, there's 3 running backs in that backfield essentially, and play good defense, this is a good move. Now, if they try to come out, Jeff, and take Justin Fields and they're going to throw the ball 35 times a game, they're in big trouble.
Yeah, I think they're going to be in a little bit of trouble no matter what they do. I think they need to shore up the offensive line. They need to get another receiving threat. Like that guy, Corley. There's no a 3rd-round pick. They hardly gave him a chance. You got Gibson.
Yeah.
Let's see what he can do. You still have Alan Lazard on the team. You didn't let him go. Are you going to keep him or are you going to get rid of him?
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of rumors that they told him to look for a trade and everything else. But right now, he's one of the more experienced receivers on the field. You went from having last year, I think it was, or not last year, 23, one of the better receiving corps as far as experience and everything, now down to what you had when you had Geno Smith, was an experience, a receiving corps with hardly anything.
Yeah, and I think that's the need. I mean, if they could get a great offensive lineman, but I think they need another explosive weapon. I think the secondary is okay. I think the defensive line's pretty good. They're not bad at linebacker. They do have to replace C.J. Mosley, but I think in the first round, if you're the Jets, it's either a stud offensive lineman or it's a wide receiver.
If they were smart, they've signed that center, the old center from Green Bay. Move Tippmann over one way or another.
Play the guard, okay.
Put this guy, the new guy from Green Bay, I forget what his name is, let him play center. He played center in Green Bay for 3 or 4 years.
Yep.
And then you got Vera Tucker, the guy Fashanu, whatever his name is.
Penn State, yeah.
You can actually have the makings of a decent offensive line. I got to run to the bathroom real quick.
What do you think? So, again, Hard Rocket Sports, that's Jeff, who's running to the bathroom, and I'm Tom. We're getting old. We're here every Thursday night. Coming up April 27th, we'll be doing our own draft here. We'll be commenting on the NFL draft as we do for the last, we've been doing the draft for quite a few years now. I'm not sure when the first one was. I know we were together for the Daniel Jones draft, and that was 2019. So I would think it's a year or two. I think the first time we did it, we were on the air, and I happened to have it in the background, and we were just kind of talking. And then from that point on, we just made it the focal point of that Thursday night. So there's, Thursday the 27th of April, I believe it is, 27th to 26th. Jeff and I will be on the air, and we'll be doing. We'll watch the first round. We'll at the very least we'll make it to the Jets at 7. If there's still time and we got the energy, we'll stay around till probably the top 10 is done. I obviously don't think there's going to be a big run on quarterbacks like there was last year. Joe, it's hard to say Thibodeau is a bust. He's had his moments. He's put up some decent stats. He needs to stay healthy, but he needs to make more impact plays. He'll finish a game with a couple of sacks sometimes, or he'll finish the year with 14 sacks. But you never felt like he was like he took over a game. Like, you don't need to have 3 sacks in a game and 10 tackles, but you could be a disruptor. You could be the guy who blew up the play, turned it back inside. You could be the guy who shut the hole down and somebody else made the tackle, or you made the quarterback step up into somebody else's hands. So I think when it comes to Kayvon Thibodeau, he doesn't make enough impact plays, and he should. With Dexter Lawrence in the middle and Brian Burns on the other side, he should be running free, and he hasn't made that impact. So, I think this is obviously a big year. I think this is I think he's going into his 5th year, or they're talking about whether to pick up his 5th-year option. I'm not sure, but yeah, I would say he's not a bust, but I would not say he's not lived up to the number 5 pick in the draft yet. So we'll see, and if he doesn't do it this year, then we'll see. Again, we'll get much more into the Giant draft, but to me, it's coming clearer. If Cam Ward doesn't drop down, I think the Giants are going to go with either Hunter or Abdul Carter. Now, if you're taking Hunter,
why do you want this kid Abdul Carter for after he's got bone problems in his feet?
Well, I don't know what his medical is. So yes, you're right. But to me, before that, he was the best player in this draft. Hunter is a unicorn. He could be a great player. I think he's going to be a great player. The question is going to be for him is, where is he going to play in the NFL? Is he a better? He caught 1,400 yards in passes at Colorado. He was one of the better corners in the league. If you're the Giants and you draft him, I think he's got to be a receiver, because I think their secondary is really good right now, and I think you're set. But if you draft him as a receiver, I think he makes a bigger impact with him, Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson, and now Slayton becomes your number 4 receiver. That's a pretty good package right there for any quarterback. So, you could go that route. I like Abdul Carter. Now, Jeff, I don't know his medical at this point, so I'm sure the Giants.
There was talk a couple of weeks ago about his bones in his foot.
Well, he had surgery on his foot, so there's
he had the surgery done.
Yeah, pretty sure he had the surgery done. So again, I don't know what the outcome of that is. I'm sure we'll hear more and more as it gets closer to the draft night. But if he's healthy, he's probably the most dominant player in this draft. I mean, the guy is a beast, and I think if you put him on a defensive line with Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Brian Burns, and somebody else, I would take it. Let's see. For what it's worth, Mel Kiper said Sanders is the best quarterback in the draft and won't get past the Giants at 3. I agree with your logic. Come on, I take Carter on. Yeah, the problem for Sanders is I disagree with Mel Kiper. I think he's not the best quarterback in the draft. I got to be honest with you. I like Dart better than I like Sanders. And there's too much baggage with Sanders. You're going to have Daddy Sanders. If he doesn't start right away, you're going to have Deion commenting on it. If they use him in a game, they're going to be getting Deion's comments on how he played and what the play calls were and what they should have done. Stay the hell away from the kid. He may turn to be a great player. Let somebody else take him. I want Hunter to play wide receiver, or I want Carter. That's the way I would love to see the Giants make it, Jeff. And that, to me, that makes the most sense with what they did with Wilson. Now, listen, do I love Russell Wilson? No. Am I buying a Russell Wilson jersey? I am not. And I would have rather, like you, stayed with Jameis Winston and signed another backup. But I understand the Giants' theory is what they didn't want to have happen was bring in Jameis Winston and, let's say, I don't know, another knockaround quarterback. Let's say Gardner Minshew, and then Winston goes down, and now you're guaranteed to lose 10 games in a row. I think the Giants thought is we got two guys. Between the two of them, we might be able to scrap away 5, 6, 7 wins. If you do that,
listen, anything is possible.
Yeah,
but I mean, I just didn't like the pickup of Russell Wilson. I just don't think that he's.
I agree.
Idea. I think that they've been better off sticking with Winston and just see what happens.
Yeah,
because neither one of these guys is a long-term answer.
No, I agree with you.
But I will say that I would rather deal with the possibility of Winston.
Correct.
Being there long term than Russell Wilson. He's younger.
Correct. I agree with you. Now.
He's also an interception machine.
Oh no! Listen, there's no doubt, but he's still young enough to where you could say maybe he has that Baker Mayfield / Geno Smith resurgence where he's not winning your Super Bowl, but he's going to make you competitive. Which is right now all the Giants want is to be competitive. They're not looking to win Super Bowls next year. They're not even looking at the playoffs. If you're the Giants or you're a Giant fan, you're looking for 6, 7 wins and a bunch of losses that were 7 points or less, and the team was very competitive. You want somebody to say, "Hey, I don't want to play the Giants right now." That's what you're looking for. And if you lose, but that's the Winston made more sense. But I understand the theory is you got two guys. It's kind of like what Pittsburgh did last year. You brought two guys in and hope that you'd find a way between the two of them to get you to the playoffs and win a couple of games.
Yeah, listen, I know that the whole thought is to try to win something. I understand that. And of course, that's what somebody's job on the Giants is, to get the people.
Yeah.
I don't understand, Frank, talk in Denver, trading the
20th pick in the draft to the Giants for the number, for the Giants for 2 number 2s and a 3rd, or a 2nd and 2 number 3s, so Giants could pick. So again, that makes more sense to me. If I were the Giants and I could if I could trade down and pick up some picks for that draft and for future drafts, I would think about that. That's a scenario I would think about. Although, to be honest with you, what I'd rather see, if it was me, Jeff, I'd rather see the Giants take somebody at 3 and then trade back into the first round to get Dart at 20 or 22 or 24, wherever you think you can step in and get them. If the Giants could pull that scenario, that would be better. I would rather give up, our number 2 pick, our number 3 pick, maybe a pick next year. And if I can sneak into the round to get a Dart, that's a guy we're going to build for in the next couple of years, I would consider that. But you're right.
Here's the problem with that.
Yeah.
Anybody, if they try to do that, people are going to know that's the move from a mile away, and they're going to hit them up for a king's ransom. I don't see them making that deal. What
very possible.
Frank is saying may end up happening more, feasibly happening more than the fucking Giants. I'm sorry.
No, Frankie, no way.
Like that.
Frankie, you're going to move up. If you're going to move up to number 3 pick in the draft, you're going to give up a lot more than the Giants are going to give up. There's no way the Giants are going to. Denver gets no way. If I'm the Giants, why would I give you my 2nd round and 2/3 to let you move all the way up and move back in the draft? It's reverse.
I think you're talking to number 1, next year's number 1 or something for.
Yeah, if you're the Giants, I'll give you number 3 pick in the draft, but you're going to give me your number 2 and 2/3.
What do you mean? First, Frank.
Why aren't you getting? I get it. I'm sorry, Frankie. I read it wrong. So you're just saying the Giants are going to move up and take the number 20 pick, and Denver's going to give up their 1st round pick. That makes sense. Yeah, I apologize. I read that.
I don't understand.
So Frankie's saying it's not a flip flop of the Giant pick at 3 for the 20. He's saying
the Giants keep the 3rd pick.
Yes, and then they trade up to 20. They give up a couple number 2s and a 3, or a number 2 and then 2 3s, and they get Denver's 1st round pick.
So once again, the Giants keep the 3rd pick.
Yep.
Give up a bunch of other picks to Denver to grab their number 20 pick.
Correct.
That doesn't really make much in the way of sense either.
No, that does make sense. Well, again,
why?
Because now you're still getting your impact player at number 3, and you're getting your quarterback.
Well, Giants, that trade works for the Giants. How does it work for the Broncos?
Well, because you're building that. Because the Giants, if theoretically Denver's got their quarterback, right?
Yes.
So now,
but the Giants aren't giving up much.
Well, you're giving up a 2 and 2 threes. That's a lot of draft equity. So,
is it a third-round pick for that?
Well, again, I'm not saying that's the exact, but I get the theory behind it. So now, would I trade next year's number 1 for the 20? I don't think so. Would I give up this year's number 2, this year's number 3, and next year's 3? That's a question. How much do you love Jackson? Do you love Dart? If you love Dart that much, then yeah, because it solves 2 problems. It gives you your impact player at number 3 at the 3rd pick of the draft, and it gives you potentially your future franchise quarterback. I'm not saying that Dart's that guy. I'm just saying that potentially gives you that.
No, I understand that. I just don't think that, knowing that what the Giants are going after. Okay, let's say that they're in a position where it's just blatantly obvious that they're going to go after a quarterback.
Yeah.
Okay. Quarterback is a premium position. We all know that.
Sure.
So you're basically trading a number 2 and 2 number 3s to get Dart.
Correct.
That's what the pick looks like at the time.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I can't see them doing that kind of trade to go back in. And just knowing that Denver, knowing that they may go after a quarterback, wouldn't Denver go after more? Because if you think about it, you're giving up a number 2, and unless the Giants are giving up 3 and 25 and 3 and 26, do they have 2 3-round picks in 25?
I don't think they have 3, but if they gave up 1 this year and 1 next year, so they're getting 3 picks. Now there is a.
And what about Denver going after their 2nd this year, their 2nd next year, and then a 3rd this year?
Well, that's possible. Anything's possible. I mean,
it's a quarterback that makes more sense than a 2nd, a 3rd, and a 3rd.
Again, I just think the theory of it, whether what the capital you have to give up to get it is, I think is almost irrelevant. I just think that scenario, if you're the Giants trading, if you're the Giants and you can trade up into the 1st round at the back end of it, 20 is fine or later, and you could get your quarterback that you like, I'd say that then you've had a good draft at that point. Denver could draft a running back or a tight end, and the Giants 2nd because they've. Yes, I think that is a good scenario. If they would have switched places with the Giants would have the 3rd pick of the 2nd round. You would still get a very good player, and then you have a little more capital to work with. I think for the Giants at least, it's a good scenario. And one that I have said for the last week or so, I'd love to see the Giants take somebody at 3 who's impact, and then get a quarterback at the back end of the 1st round. There's a couple of guys, when I take a guy like Quinn Ewers, I would not that spot. I would take Quinn Ewers at 4, maybe 3. I like Dart a lot. I think his draft stock has gone way up.
I've seen a couple of drafts saying the Jets would get him.
Yeah.
I've seen that once or twice.
Yeah, I've gotten past the point, Jeff, where you can't draft him at 7. There's no way. If you like him, you could take him at 15. To me, I got to this point in my life. Now, if you think Jackson Dart is your player, is your quarterback, if you got the 7th pick, 8th pick, or 29th pick, and that's your guy, go get him. Regardless.
We've been saying this for a while now. Yeah. I don't understand that. Like, why do people put such a premium on there?
Yeah.
Most of the times, and I understand, I know that it'll pop up sooner or later. Not every pick is going to make it, whether it's 1st rounder or whatever. Not every pick is going to make it in the NFL. And I understand that.
Yeah.
But if you feel strongly about a guy and you think that he's the one that's going to make it happen, then you got to take him.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because there's nothing that says that this guy's going to last 30-something picks. And now, after a certain number in the draft where that, like, okay, this guy, they're not going after a quarterback. All right, so that he's safe. All right, here's another team. They're developing a quarterback. They get somebody on the bench. He's safe. But now you get into some area, there's 2 or 3 teams in a row that maybe this guy can go. If the guy is going to end up being the guy, it is what it is. Don't matter who you get him.
I agree with you. And I think it's also gotten to the point now where it's so subjective nowadays in the draft. I don't know why, I think you got to kind of get out of that. Well, you can't draft a guard at 3. You can't draft you can't draft a safety in the top 10. To me, if there's an impact player, if there's an Ed Reed, if there's, look at Zach Martin. Zach Martin was taken in the first round and early, I believe. That guy's a Hall of Famer. He played 10 years. He was remarkably healthy for most of his career. The guy was a road grader. If you find your guy that fits your spot and you say that guy potentially could be a Hall of Famer, I don't care where you take him. I don't care what position he's in. To me, nowadays, Jeff, I think it's more important to get a guy who you think you could sign to a second contract, because there's so few guys who get the second contract. I think that's almost the criteria now is, all right, do I see re-signing him in 4 years? That's it's almost to that point now.
Yeah, but you know what, dude? A lot of these guys, the teams take them, and they should have high expectations for their draft pick.
Yep.
Without a doubt, they should, because you're taking the guy. Everything is capital for you. You know what I'm saying?
Oh.
And if the guy doesn't make it, it is what it is. But there's teams out there that just signing a guy for a second contract just never happens.
No, that's my point. Yeah, I think, the problem I think is people have pigeonholed themselves into, you can only take quarterbacks in the top 5. You can only take, running backs. You can't take them in the first round. You can't, I think it's more important to pick a guy who's going to be on your team long term than it is to worry about where you draft them. I'm tired of guys getting drafted, in the first round, quarterbacks who never make it because, they're a quarterback, so I could draft them in the top. Go get the best player who's going to stick around a long time. How many contracts is Cousins on? I would say Cousins on is at least 3rd, right? Because he had his first original contract. Then he got the the Vikings contract.
Vikings.
And then he got the Falcons contract. So I don't know, who was his first team? Was the Browns?
Redskins.
Okay. So did he have 2 contracts with them or just the one? I think just the one.
I don't remember, dude. I'd be lying if I said so, either way.
I think it's his 3rd contract. He got the Redskins, then he went and signed with the Vikings, had that big huge deal, and then now the Falcons got him. So I think it's 3, Joe. Right? He'd have his initial rookie contract, then he'd have his Vikings contract, which was huge, and then the Falcon contract, which they're regretting. And he still
got drafted the same year RG3 and Andrew Luck got drafted. So Correct. What was that? 2010, 2012, something like that?
I would say something in that range. Yeah, 2000 something in 12, 13.
So he's been there a while.
Yeah, he's definitely on his 3rd contract. I don't think he had 2 contracts. I think he played 4 years at least with the Redskins, and then 4 years with the Vikings, and he's on his 2nd year now there. So that's 12 years.
Well, let's see. 10 years. Look it up right now.
All right, go.
He's 36 years old. His first year was 2012.
Okay, we got 2.
He was with Washington from 2012 to 2017.
So 5 years.
Okay, he was off the bench for the first 3 years. Then he went to Minnesota. He was with Minnesota from 2018 to 2023.
So 5 years there.
6 years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Last year, 2023, he only started 8 games.
Yeah, he hurt
with an injury or something.
Yeah, I think Achilles. I want to say he hurt his Achilles.
Yeah, something like
elbow,
that.
Something. I forget what it was, but yeah, listen.
So it's probably his 3rd contract.
I would say he's on his 3rd contract right now. So listen, if he's available, I think he's a serviceable NFL quarterback who probably is a shade under the Goffs of the world. So, Tommy, do you think the Giants quarterback room is better than last year? Oh, that's a tough one. I don't know the answer to that. I would say the answer is yes, because I think Locke was terrible. Jones wasn't good, but I think Jones is theoretically better than these 2 guys right now, theoretically. But I think the other 2 guys, DeVito regressed and Locke was terrible. So I think the answer is yes right now. The room should be better. I don't know, Jeff. What do you think?
I don't understand how you say that Tommy DeVito regressed when I don't think Tommy DeVito was an NFL caliber quarterback to begin with. He is exactly what he is, a fucking a second, third fucking quarterback.
No, I agree with you. What I'm saying is, the year before, Tommy DeVito played a bunch of games, won a few, and looked like a guy who, with some work and some time, could be at least a really good, serviceable backup quarterback, if not a half-ass starter. When he got in there last year, he didn't look like that again. He looked like he took a step back, like he wasn't prepared to play. So I'm not disagreeing. I don't think he was ever going to be an NFL starter, but I think there was a point where you could say Tommy DeVito 2 years ago, the thought process a little bit was he could be your backup quarterback. After last year,
I can see that somebody, and then you're praying that he would play it.
Correct. But at least you could say, well, he, 2 years ago, he got in for 4 games or 5 games or 6 games, and he won 3 of 3. He was 3-3. So you'd say, all right, he could be my backup for 5 or 6 games. After last year, I went, I don't know. He didn't get any better. He might have gotten worse.
Did he still have that fucking Nimrod as a
yes.
As a
as a manager or agent, whatever. Yeah, he's still around.
Jesus Christ.
So to me, Tommy DeVito being the third string quarterback in the Giants is almost a gimmick. But yes, Frankie, I think it's for 2 reasons. One, like you said, it's a cheap room. At the worst case scenario, it costs you $28 million for 2 quarterbacks. The best case scenario.
Ask Frank this question, all right? You had Russell Wilson on your team. What do you think of the Giants getting Russell Wilson? Is it a good deal? I mean, I know he had a bumpy ride over there in Denver, but Denver was rebuilding at the time. All right, they seem to have got their ship right now.
Yeah.
And he went to Pittsburgh, and he wasn't really able to do, a real solid job in Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh really didn't attempt to keep either one of those 2 guys. But so what are your thoughts on him, Wilson, being with the Giants? Is he worth it? You've seen him play more than anybody else here.
Yeah, while Frankie's answering that, I think the Giants are using kind of the same playbook that Pittsburgh had last year. They brought in 2 quarterbacks who weren't good, aren't great, but if you get 3 games from this guy and then 2 games from him, and then he comes in for a game, and I think they were just trying to piecemeal themselves a chance to win. And it worked for Pittsburgh to a certain extent. They made the playoffs. I mean, they lost the last 4 games of the season. I agree with Louis on that. Yeah, and I think to Jeff's point about Aaron Rodgers, the biggest problem with Aaron Rodgers, he might be the best of all of these guys, these type of guys, talent-wise, but he's a team killer. And I think that's why Jeff was so negative on the Giants signing him. And I think that's the problem I have with Russell Wilson is, has he learned his lesson? Because he got run out of Denver as much for being an asshole as it was for being a bad football player. So I can deal with a bad football player. I just don't want an asshole in the locker room. And I agree with Louis. I would rather see Winston.
An asshole in the locker room, whoever fucking takes Rodgers. I mean, listen, you're almost 3 weeks, 4 weeks away from the draft. And Aaron Rodgers still has another team on the hook. And then look, piece of candy. And off he goes.
Yeah.
It's total bullshit. I feel as though Pittsburgh, if I was Pittsburgh, I would have turned around and I would have signed either Wilson or Fields first. Then if you want to upgrade the quarterback position, then go after Rodgers. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that Rodgers, I don't think it's right at all what he's doing to these teams. That's going to be the 3rd year in a row. Well, 3rd time in 4 years that he strung a team along.
Yeah, no. But again, people put up with it. If I were the Steelers, I would at this point I tell them, you got a week. Figure it out. I mean, what are his other options at this point? I've heard some rumors that Minnesota is interested in him now. But to me, if he goes there, there's a real good chance that he's going to start the season at start, and they got McCarthy. So if you want to be a pure starting quarterback, his only real shot is Pittsburgh. So I don't know.
Well, you know what? At least if he was to go to Pittsburgh or Minnesota, okay, which I didn't see him going to the Giants, and evidently he's not going to the Giants. Okay, you're 41 years old. You want to make a shot at going to the playoffs. It's not going to be with the Giants.
No.
Okay, or any other team, Cleveland or Las Vegas, any team like that was not going to the playoffs. So it makes sense to say Minnesota or Pittsburgh. But you want to know something? I can see if he went to Minnesota and then the next day he goes to Pittsburgh and Pittsburgh gives him a deal or offers him a deal. And then he goes to Minnesota and he's like, this is what I'm offered. I need to know. I need you guys to tell me the best deal by Wednesday. Today's Monday. You know what I mean? I could see him being in command and leading the pack that way. But what he's doing, he was there for 6 hours. 6 hours. Mm-hmm. That's really not that long of a time. And to me, it doesn't show anything. There's guys that go on Friday morning. They go Friday, they're there all day Friday. Then they go out for dinner Friday night. Then
sure.
They go the next day and they're touring something else or they're going to look at the plane. They're there all weekend. This guy goes for 6 hours. That's a fart in the breeze.
No, I agree with you. And I think that's part of the problem. But the problem for Pittsburgh is, what other choice do they have? Right now, their starting quarterback is Mason Rudolph.
I think I read, I can't remember for sure, so please don't hold me to it, but I think Tannehill. I think I read someplace. Listen, I hear you, but
I mean, unless you're going to try to trade with the Titans to get Will Levis, I think they're going to have to draft a quarterback in Tennessee. I mean, they've been a little coy about it, but if you're Pittsburgh, you're emptying the tank for Rodgers. And the question, for me is, what's Rodgers hanging around for? Like, where's the other option from them? When the Giants came off the board as an option, you took away your leverage. Now, unless you, I can't imagine.
Tom, you yourself have said, what leverage does he need? The guy's getting a monster paycheck anyway.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. It's not like you're trying to bump up your money because you're already getting more money you're going to get from the Jets. Yeah.
You're getting paid. If I was Aaron Rodgers, I would have contacted any team that had playoff aspirations, and I would have threw my hat in the ring over there and tried to get on with a playoff team. I wouldn't have even entertained certain teams because I'm like, I'm 41. How long am I going to play? Yeah. Maybe I make it through this year, and I see maybe next year I'm sitting and I think a couple weeks, a couple months to see how I feel. But, it is okay. I know I heard about Tannehill, but
I think Tannehill going to the Vikings if that's the case, and that's fine, he's going to go there and back up McCarthy, which makes total sense. Pittsburgh is the only real option for Aaron Rodgers. It's the only place being talked about. And I don't understand. If you're Pittsburgh, I understand the theory. And if you're Rodgers, other than having to play, other than having to play in the cold, you're playing for a legit coach. You're playing for a team that made the playoffs last year with two terrible quarterbacks. Guys played terrible last year for the most part. So to me, if you're Aaron Rodgers and you go there and play decent, you got a good receiving core. I don't get it. What's the holdup? Unless the only thing that makes any sense to me, and I know Rodgers throw out making sense. The only thing that would make any sense is that he's deciding whether he wants to play at all or not.
Yeah, but Tom, Pittsburgh, sooner or later, Pittsburgh is the only fucking dog in the fight.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay? Pittsburgh, you have to say, listen, there's only a few guys options left. Shit will get off the pot because we need to know what's going on. We need to plan a season.
Yeah.
Okay? If you're part of it, you're part of it. If not, you're not. Matter of fact, I wouldn't even give him a week.
No, I agree with you.
Tomorrow afternoon, I need to know by Saturday, by lunchtime, or we're out.
I agree with you. The problem for Pittsburgh becomes, though, what's the option if you do that and he says, all right, forget it, I'll go somewhere else. Like, what is your who's your quarterback this year? I mean, I don't know where they draft, but it's got to be 20-something at this point. They made the playoffs, right?
I don't know exactly where.
Yeah, so they're 23, 24.
But his guys were coming off the fucking board, and Kirk Cousins wasn't available.
Yeah,
Geno Wilson got traded in a draft, and a couple others. Sam Darnold got signed, which I don't know why anybody would want Sam Darnold anyway. I think he caught lightning in a bottle in one year.
Yeah, I agree. I would agree.
And these other guys, it's like, listen, we need to know.
Yeah.
Nobody's putting in their sense of urgency to Aaron Rodgers. Why? Because he's Aaron Rodgers?
Well, that's why I think had they done that to him before Wilson signed with – see, I think Wilson wanted to go back to Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh wanted to wait on Rodgers. And I think the Giants kind of figured out that Rodgers wasn't coming, and they made the same offer to Wilson and said, not only will we sign you and we'll give you, incentives to get to where you want to be money-wise, but you're a starting quarterback. And I think that is the one mistake that Pittsburgh made was they should have said, we're giving you till the morning. If not, we're signing Russell Wilson. If you don't go, then you're on your own. Hey, Frank Jeffrey, perfect conversation, Frankie. We're talking football, Aaron Rodgers, why he hasn't signed with anybody, why Pittsburgh didn't go after Russell Wilson to force Rodgers to do something. And we're talking about the Giants' 2 quarterbacks. So bring you up to speed.
The defensive end, Frank did say that in Pittsburgh. But you want to know something? Pittsburgh is one of those franchises where, based on history, they're going to get a lot of players that are going to look at them for an option as it is.
I agree.
And Aaron Rodgers at his age should be happy that anybody is looking at him.
Yeah.
And especially, I know he played with the Jets last year. It wasn't the best year. He didn't have a bad year.
No, not at all.
If you're a playoff team and somebody is coming after you, I think you got to fucking take it.
Yeah, well, and again, I agree with you. So if Aaron Rodgers' 2 choices was the Giants and the Cleveland Browns, I get it going, oh my God, I got to finish these teams are terrible. You have a chance to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. First off, it's obviously a legacy franchise. 2, it's probably one of the, if not the best coach, one of the best coaches in the league. And a team that's remarkably consistent. So if you're Aaron Rodgers, you're going to a team that hasn't had a losing season. I can't remember the last time that Pittsburgh had a losing season. Obviously, it's not during Tomlin's time, so that's 10 years or better.
Did he have like 1 losing season?
No, he's 500 is the worst he's been as a head coach.
Really?
Yeah.
And he's been there for what?
10 years, 12 years? Yeah. So
he's been there a lot longer than 12 years, bro.
But again, well, maybe you're probably right. Maybe it's supposed to 13 or 14 years. So, yeah. So to me, if you're Aaron Rodgers, what's the better scenario? Now, maybe he wanted to go to Raiders. I don't know. Maybe he wanted to go to Minnesota. They seem to be reluctant.
In 2007.
Wow, that long, huh? Wow, 18 years.
12 playoff appearances, 7 division titles, 3 AFC championship games, and 2 Super Bowl appearances and 1 Super Bowl championship. And our buddy out there says that this is terrible.
Again,
if you could get Tomlin right now and get that same results, would you take him?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And knowing you're going to get that same menu from him.
Yeah,
I think that in a heartbeat.
Now, again, lucky for him, he had Big Ben in his prime, so he had a book. But since Big Ben's gone now, that's 5 years now, he still managed to be 500 or better, make the playoffs. So, I think I don't know what the Aaron Rodgers sticking point is, but Pittsburgh has backed themselves into a corner where they almost have to now draft a quarterback this year because there isn't. I don't know of any other options. Now, maybe they pull off a trade for Kirk Cousins. Maybe they pull off a trade for some quarterback that's hanging out somebody's.
Tomlin's been with Pittsburgh since 2007, man.
Yeah. I
just looked it up.
Yeah, we just looked it up, Frankie. So you're dead right on the money. But maybe Pittsburgh can wrestle away a starting quarterback from somebody. I don't know who, but Kyle. There are guys out there. I mean, where's Carr at this point in his career? Is Carr still in?
He's in New Orleans.
Okay, so maybe there's a team out there that's willing to give up a guy like that for a couple draft picks. But to me, for Rodgers, the problem is what is your other option at this point? You've kind of backed yourself into a corner. You had Giants for leverage. That's gone. They're obviously they're not waiting around for you. What other team is looking for a quarterback that would take you and your baggage? And Pittsburgh's begging you. To me, it's the best of all the worlds for him. I just don't get it. I really.
Why would you not want to go to Pittsburgh?
That's my point. It's
even though they ended the season on a bad note last year.
Yeah, 4 or 5 straight losses.
After losing 5 games in a row, they got into the playoffs. Okay, so if he wants to play, just go over there. Right now Minnesota's not interested in your services. So why wait on Minnesota? I wouldn't wait on Minnesota.
I listen. To me, Minnesota's a great job. They have a great coach. They got two of the best receivers in football. They have a chance in every year in that division. So, no problem. I get, but if I'm Minnesota, I think they're going to go to McCarthy with a legitimate backup quarterback, and they're going to shoot. They're going to shoot for the hip and go for it. I don't think they want to bring Rodgers in for 1 year. I don't think they're willing to do that. But we'll see. But to me, if you're him, if you can go there, great. But I take Pittsburgh because the other options, I don't know where it is.
Well, listen, we're saying this from Aaron Rodgers' point of view, and Frank Catalano. We all agree with that. But here's the thing: you say that about Rodgers, he's an asshole.
Yep.
How stupid is the Steelers being? They're watching quarterbacks get snatched up.
That's the problem I have. Yes, I agree with you on that part. Yeah,
and yeah, Corey, I would, if that's where he at this point in time, that's where he should be going. I feel the same way.
Yeah,
but I mean, Pittsburgh has got to put pressure on him too. But now, Aaron Rodgers knows that there's nobody left for Pittsburgh to sign that's worthwhile.
Correct. And the problem for Pittsburgh is if you're going to trade for a car or for even if you want to reach out to the Giants and say, hey, we're willing to trade for Jameis Winston, everybody knows you're desperate right now. Everybody knows. So unless you're going to try to find a way to pry Kirk Cousins,
who the remaining free agent quarterbacks are?
Oh, I can't even imagine. I have no idea. I mean, Tannehill at this point. I mean, it can't be much.
I'm gonna try to look it up now.
I'm telling you, I think there was already.
Sam Darnold got. They all got fucking.
Again, Frank Jeffrey, that makes sense. To a certain extent, but if you're Pittsburgh, you at least got to say to him, "Hey, great, but make that decision before everybody else who's any good comes off the board." Because if he decides to now say, "You know what, I did about 4 weeks of ayahuasca and I'm not going to play," who's Pittsburgh going to now? That's the only problem I would have. Yeah, Jeff.
Frank, I understand your thing. You said it's twice already. Okay, a backdoor deal. Backdoor could shut too, and he could be the one that shuts it and be like, you know what, I don't want to play. Fuck it.
Right,
and you follow the team, then you're totally fucked.
Yeah, and if you're Pittsburgh, you let everybody else come off the board. So yes, Corey, I don't know why they would wait this long. At Hard Rocket Sports, that's Chef. I'm Tom. We're every Thursday night. We're 4 weeks away from the NFL draft. We'll be here right here watching the draft with you live.
Actually, less than 4 weeks.
Yes, we'll be here watching the draft with you live. We'll do our show. We've done it for at least the last 7, 8, 10 years. We've been doing the draft it's not 10 because we've been on the air for 10. So it's about 8 years we've been doing the draft on the show. And we'll be here. We'll do this. We'll do at least the first 7 picks to get to the Jets. We'll usually wind up with the first top 10. And we'll
something. I mean, maybe you know, don't know. I'm just thinking of this because of what Frank has said. Let's say that Aaron Rodgers has a deal in place and he's maybe signed a deal. If he signs a deal, they have to disclose it, don't they?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I would think the answer is yes. I don't know, and I don't know what they would gain by not. What's the gain by hiding the fact that he made a deal? Unless
I don't know, Tom. There is no reason to hide it. I hear you, but I mean, what else? What else could it be? You know what I mean? So if they sign any kind of deal with any player and they put it on paper, it has to be disclosed. They can't hold on to it for a week or two.
Not to my knowledge. I don't know. I don't think they'd be able to be officially ratified. I know it has to be submitted to the league office, has to be submitted to the players union. So at that point, I don't know how you say.
Business purposes on that way, yes, I understand that. But I didn't know if maybe they could say, like, listen, we ain't going to announce this until right before the draft. We're going to let people think, like, what are they doing,
Yeah, Frank, I agree. If you're Pittsburgh and he says, I'm going to sign with you, I'm taking a few weeks off, and then I'll be over there, and you're banking on that, that's fine. But if you're waiting for him and 2 weeks from now he goes, I'm not coming back, you're screwed. You're Pittsburgh. There is no other options out there.
Frank Catalano, he's getting a certain amount of money from the Jets anyway.
Yeah.
So he's not that he's holding out for extra money. He's only going to get so much.
Yeah.
So even if
much you can make.
What would you say at one time, like the Giants could give him the league minimum?
Yeah. Well, again, the Jets have to pay him, right? So every dollar, let's say right now, let's say Pittsburgh gave him $10 million for next year. The Jets would pay $10 million less to him next year. He can only make what the Jets give him and the league minimum. He cannot get more money. He can't get another $40 million on top of what the Jets getting.
Oh, so he can only play. Well, that's
yeah. So he's basically playing on the Jets' money right now.
Major dick is right.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, I think, Corey, I think every team has that problem for the most part. If your starter goes down, you're not winning games. So that part, again, if you're Pittsburgh and Rodgers goes down, which is, possible at 41 years old, but that could be any team. I don't care. I mean, look at Cincinnati. If Joe Burrow goes down, Cincinnati's not winning a lot of games. If
look at like Josh Allen. Imagine if Josh Allen goes down.
What do you mean not true? You can if the Jets are on the hook for $49 million or whatever it is, and every dollar he makes, the Jets pay less money. I do not believe that he can get another $40 million contract from somebody. So
why would they want to give him $40 million?
As much as he wants plus what the Jets pay. I don't think so, Frank. I don't think that's how it works. I could be dead wrong. So don't but I believe he goes and the only thing comes off with the Jets. I don't believe he can make another $40 million on top of the Jets' $40 million. I don't believe that's what he can do. So, but yeah, that's my point, Frank Jeffrey. My point.
So bottom line is his cap is $49 million, and then it's split between the two teams. However,
whatever they. So if I
was Pittsburgh, I would just say I give you the league minimum. That's that.
I'm going to pay you $1 million, and the Jets are paying 48. I believe Frank. That's how I've always understood it. So I do not believe he can now get another. He could sign a 4-year deal and get a bonus and have money in the back end, but I don't believe he can make any more than the $49 million the Jets owe him this year. So
even if he was to redo his deal, it's all based on $49 million?
Well, for this year. So let's say he signed a 2-year, $80 million deal, right? He could get $79 million next year and $1 million this year from that team, theoretically. But he could get a $50 million signing bonus. So he could get a 2-year deal, get a big signing bonus that's toward next year. Now Pittsburgh be on the hook for $78 million next year for a quarterback that's 42 years old. So
scary thought is that real soon you're going to see a number like that on somebody's team.
Yeah.
So
listen, the bottom line is, I think this is one of the few times that I think Pittsburgh's backed themselves into a corner and they made a bad decision here. They didn't have a chance with Justin Fields. They wanted free agency. He signed with the Jets. So he was getting out of there for whatever reason. I think they wanted to sign Russell Wilson, but Rodgers toyed with them a little bit to say, maybe I want to come there, and they waited too long. I think they made a mistake. And so to me, if you were Pittsburgh, you needed to sign somebody before everybody came off the board. Now, they still might get Rodgers, Jeff. They still could wind up with Aaron Rodgers, and it's all fine. So, Pittsburgh. But
listen, anybody could sign Rodgers right now at this point in time. He is a free agent.
No, I got you. But
it's just, to me, it's more of the thought of like what happened to Pittsburgh. You're waiting on Rodgers, and everybody's leaving.
Yeah. Well,
it's like being the ugly girl at the dance, and the end of the night is coming, and everybody's left.
Yeah. I think the only question is he actually thinking about retiring? Does he want to come back for another season? Does he want to, try another? Now that could be the only thing. But if he turns around and 2 weeks from now says, hey, by the way, thank you, I've decided to retire, I think Pittsburgh's screwed. No matter what, the Jets cap hits $23 million for Rodgers and $49 million in dead cap. Yes, that is absolutely the case.
Funny, man. They dick themselves this year, the Jets. They fucking suck.
Hey, Frank Jeffrey, love to have you for the draft show, my man. If you got any interest, let me know. We'd love to have you on for some or all of the draft show. Let me know if you're interested. But then hope you guys will join us that night.
We can have Frank on right up until the Dolphins pick and then cut him off.
But there should be a lot going on. I do want to get off just a little bit. I do want to talk about a little bit of George Foreman, a former guest on the show who passed away this week at the age of 76. And And he does, Joe. You're right. Aaron Rodgers does love Drake. He loves to be center of attention. So Jeff, we did get to interview George Foreman twice. One of my favorite guests. For the record, I emailed George Foreman on a Sunday night, never thinking I'd hear from him ever. And the next morning, I get a phone call, strange number. I pick it up. It's George Foreman sitting in the dentist chair, calling me back. Now, I have to tell you guys, one of the blessings of the show, and Jeff will tell you, because, whenever you're growing up.
Hold on one second. Yeah, they did do fine with the Wilson cap hit, but this is the Jets. Completely different animal, completely different world, completely different stratosphere. They breathe fucking carbon dioxide instead of fucking oxygen. They're just fucked up. They're just completely fucked up. Nothing they do makes sense. They couldn't fall out of a boat and hit water. They suck.
So the one thing on this show that, and we haven't had guests in a long time, I've stopped trying. It's very difficult to get. Is when you get the chance to talk to somebody that you idolized or you grew up watching on TV. And, well, I never idolized George Foreman. George Foreman was heavyweight champion of the world twice. George Foreman was Olympic boxing champ in 1968. He was essentially a TV star, an entrepreneur. To me, there's a guy who's just this. And when you wake up and you're at work and your phone rings and George Foreman's calling you on the phone, I have to tell you, it's a little awestruck. Like, it definitely took it. It was a bad one.
Everybody from. Listen, at least it got off the ground, man. So sometimes it don't even go off the ground.
That's very funny, Frank. So when the guy called me back and said, "Sure, I'd love to be on your show," and he came on and he was on for a good hour and change, and he was telling other stories about being pooped on at the Olympics. And
yes.
But I would tell you, for me, I don't know how much you remember about it. And unfortunately, the site that we used to do the show on for the first few years, Blog Talk Radio, is out of business.
Oh,
a lot of the shows have disappeared.
Oh.
So I've been trying to do a little research. I found a few. I have a few saved on YouTube, but none of the George Foreman ones I was able to find. But anyway,
the best part about George Foreman is when we did interview him. Yeah. I remember the conversation going at a nice pace.
Yep.
He wasn't in a rush to get out of there.
Nope.
He was there for the duration as long as we wanted to talk to him.
Yeah.
He answered every question we asked him. And to this day, I'll never forget when I asked him, I said, "George, who hit you the hardest?" And he gave us the whole story about that with Ron Lyle.
Ron Lyle.
And he told us the whole story. He's like, I said to myself, "George, what are you doing down here, man? He didn't hurt me, but he hit me the hardest I've ever been hit in my life." I'll never forget that.
Yep.
And he was just a really nice, down-to-earth guy. If you said that this was your neighbor down the street, you could have passed it off because that's the way that he talked.
Yeah.
He was just really, really nice. Terrible loss for the sporting world and the boxing world, without a doubt, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, here's a guy who basically quit boxing at 28 years old, came back at 40, and became heavyweight champ again. So,
I remember when he came back, I remember watching a lot of his fights, and I was at my friend's father's house.
Okay.
Watching the fight. And we were drinking and fucking puffing and having a great time. And we were like, one of the things I noticed, as preoccupied as I was, in between rounds, George Foreman never once sat.
Oh, wow.
And I was like 25, 26 years old at the time. And there's George Foreman, 40 years old. So I'm like, this old man isn't even fucking sitting. I'm like, how is he going to make it? And he went through the whole entire fight. And he never sit. And when he threw those punches, those little jabs, it looked like he was getting hit by a fucking sledgehammer.
Yeah.
His hand was so fucking huge.
Oh, my God. Yeah. One of the hardest hits.
Big fucking boy, man.
Yeah.
Wow. And he wasn't out of air. He didn't look tired. And he just fucking marched forward, man. Wow. It was great. I remember those. And then he was in the heavyweight picture for a number of years, 40 years old.
Absolutely. Frank Jeffrey, I don't know if you remember it, but I'm pretty sure you, me, and a couple of guys watched one of his fights, maybe the championship fight, I'm not sure, at the Showplace Bowling Alley. We went to go see Sensei Jim was bouncing out there. Jim, I can't think of his last name. He played football with us a little bit. And we went out to Showplace, and we was on, and we were drinking. And I remember watching some of his fights at there with you. But, my favorite memory from that interview, and we did it. He was on with us twice. Couldn't have been a better guy to come on again. But the first one, I was curious to say, I would think you're a boxer. You want to get pumped up. What are you listening to in the locker room? And he came out and told us that he was a big ABBA fan and that he used to listen to ABBA. And to me, you could have told me anything in the world that he loved Muhammad Ali, hated Joe Frazier. You could have told me a million things. The fact that I would thought, Motown, right? You think George Foreman growing up in that era. And if you remember, he had a show with William Shatner,
Henry Winkler,
and Terry Bradshaw. And there were 4 guys. They went around the world and they did all this crazy stuff. Yep. And one of the episodes was him getting to meet not only like some ABBA tribute band, but ABBA themselves. And he got to hang with them. And you could see he was like the happiest day of his life. And to find out that Big George Foreman was working out to ABBA was the most mind-bending thing I've ever heard in my time. It was great to listen to, and that was a really good show. And I'll be honest with you, I know that they probably couldn't do it with those guys anymore, but that type of show with, bringing 4 guys from 4 different places and take them to places they never were was brilliant. It was a great show. I watched every episode. I thought that was a great show.
I didn't see the show, but I remembered it, and it was on for more than one season too.
I think it did 2 seasons. Yeah, I think it was 2 seasons, and it was funny
about the show too.
Yeah, it was. Well, that's why he came on. He was promoting the show, so it was very good. It was a lot of fun, and he was a guy who was.
Hold on, I just.
Yeah, it's true. It's I was like, so George, when you're getting ready for a big fight and you're in the locker room and you're getting yourself ready, what are you listening? What's kind of music you listen to? And he's like, ABBA. ABBA? Are you kidding me? Yeah. But Joe, that's what he said. It was he loved to listen to ABBA, and I think Dancing Queen was his favorite song. So here's Big George Foreman. I'm thinking he'll tell me Smokey Robinson, The Temptations. He had. Some James Brown. Nope, ABBA. So I'll always be very thankful to that man for picking up the phone. And I will tell you, guys, whenever the show ends, I'm always going to be happy. But, besides getting to do the show with Jeff every week and all you guys, and it keeps us talking and hanging out, and it's one of the blessings of doing this show, I've gotten to interview and talk to, I picked up the phone one day and Ron Bloomberg from the Yankees was on it. I've gotten to get on the phone and interview guys that guys like that I grew up idolizing and listening to and seeing in concert and watching play baseball. And when when you're driving down the road and you're heading home and the phone rings and Ron Bloomberg's, "Hey buddy, how you doing?" I get it, but you turn back into that 8, 10, 12-year-old kid. And it's just something that'll never go away from me. Do you have those two? Frankie, I have some like the Lita Ford show. There's a bunch of them on YouTube. If you go to YouTube, there's a bunch of Hard Rocket Sports shows there. Tommy John interviews. Yeah, Tommy John, those interviews luckily made it to YouTube. Let's see what else. There's a bunch of them. If you go to YouTube, Hard Rocket Sports, Lita Ford's there. Who's the guy from what's his name? From Grand Funk Railroad. What's the name of that? What's that guy's name?
Mark Foreigner?
Yeah, his interviews on there. There's a bunch. If you go to YouTube, Hard Rocket Sports, a bunch of shows there. You can catch a bunch of our past interviews. So yeah, check them out. The Lita Ford is one of my favorite.
Lita Ford started off really bad.
God,
I remember texting you. I was like, just hang up on this bitch.
Well,
she started talking about Eddie Van Halen.
Well, the funny part of Lita Ford was her manager kept threatening me to say, if you talk about her marriage, I'm pulling her off the air immediately. And I said, okay. She said, no, I'm telling you, if you bring up her ex-husband, I'm pulling you off the air. It's a big problem. I said, I promise you, I will not go there. And my first 2 questions to her, I think I asked the first 2 questions, and she gave like yes or no answers.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh boy, this is going to be bad. And yes, Jeff was texting me in the background going, this is not going well. It's not going to go well. And then all of a sudden, I don't know if Jeff asked the question or if I did, and she opened up, and it was like we had it for an hour. And the funny part is, I asked her a couple of questions.
About Eddie Van Halen.
Well, that was kind of toward the end when she talked about Eddie Van Halen wearing her underwear, which I thought was, and climbing out her window. So,
yeah.
But the funny part of it was, I asked her about her new album, her book, which I had just read, and she brought up, like, I said, well, the albums, this album was a little darker than your previous albums. Well, my marriage, and I didn't dig in because I wanted to stay away like I had promised. And then I asked her another question, and she went back to the marriage thing. And then I said, all right, all bets are off. And the next thing I know, it was like a Howard Stern interview. She was telling us, she was getting it on with Eddie Van Halen, and he was running around in her pants and her underwear. And then her boyfriend came home, and Eddie climbed out the window. I'm telling you, the Lita Ford one is a funny interview. One of our best ones. Check it out. Tommy John was a classic. Just calling Billy Martin a racist, and all remember that one?
Yeah, vaguely.
Oh my God!
I remember doing the interview. I remember everything he said, but I remember him bitching about Billy Martin a little bit.
Oh, but not bitching, boy. Crazy.
Well, he was one of those like fucking Southerners, man.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's funny because I probably could have him on again, but he looks a little rough. He's got like no teeth left. He's had some health issues. Oh no, I can't do that. But yeah, Tommy John was one of my favorite. But yeah, to me, when
he's 81 years old.
Who, Tommy John?
He's 81 years old.
Oh yeah. When you get that phone call and it's one of those guys, yes. No, Eddie was not back. No, Eddie was later on in the career. In fact, it was after what's his name choked her out. Tony Iommi. She told, because I asked her if she had like groupies. Like would she send somebody out and grab a random guy in the crowd? She said, no, I only bang celebrities. Like she was very clear. Like, so no, Eddie was banging her. It was like mid 80s. Like it was her, when she had the big album out and Kiss Me Deadly
back then.
Yeah, that's when he was going. No, not when she was like 17 in the Runaways. But her book was really good. If you guys, I might even have it. If anybody, I got a whole bunch of these hard rock, heavy metal books. If anybody wants any of them, let me know. I'll drop them off, or I'll send them to you in the mail. But I got a bunch of Maiden and Ozzy. I don't know. I just sitting there. I was about to donate them. So if anybody's looking for some baseball or sports books or good metal books, good music books, let me know.
One that I can't bring myself to read, and I have it right here, the Geezer Butler book.
Oh yeah, I didn't get that one. I haven't got. Tony Iommi's book is actually very good. Did you read Iommi's book?
Yes.
That was actually a really good book.
It's written the way he talks.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, the one I couldn't get through was oh man, I'm trying to think now. There was one that I got. He actually signed the book for me. Keith Richards. Keith
Richards' book.
Yeah, I tried to read it, and he personally signed it to me, and I tried to read it, couldn't do it.
This book, my wife got me this for my birthday. Chris Cornell book.
Okay.
It was a pretty rough book to read, and I never made it through, and I had to tell her that I wasn't going to read it. And I went so far, and I suggested to my wife to read this for her book club.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, she made this for me, and I use it as the bookmark, and that was the release date. You can't see it. Which was July 28th for the book. But funny thing, if you look on the book, I don't know if you can see it, there's a stain there.
Okay.
All right. And she was reading the book, and she was trying to be careful with the book and everything else. And she stained it. And she told me that she said to her daughter, she goes, I stained this book. So the book was in pristine shape. What should I do? And she was going to get me another book and throw this one out. But I said something to her about the book, and I was like, she told me, like, I'm sorry I stained it. And I was like, oh, don't worry about it. She thought I was going to be upset. But I'm like, nah, It's all good. So I almost got a second book out of it, but I didn't.
Joe, you're out of your mind, Joe.
Well, we're going to stick with Joe and his line of questioning. Joe, why do you think that Lita Ford liked anal? And do you mean regular anal or fisting?
We've definitely crossed over this time.
Well, I want to see what Joe has, maybe some inside information, or maybe he's been inside Alita. I don't know. So we might as well find out what it is that he knows.
Next week, by the way, while I wait for Joe's both, I will post all the books that I have, and if anybody's interested, let me know. I'd be happy to drop them off. I got a bunch of Ace Frehley books, and I got a bunch of stuff. So anyway,
so now I got to ask the question.
Go ahead.
All right. I don't give a fuck about baseball. I don't care about basketball, hockey. I don't care about football at this point in time.
Oh boy. Okay.
All right. I need to know if your bitch ass is going to fucking be in front of a TV in about 15, 20 minutes.
Oh boy. Here we go.
Are you going to put up or shut up, man?
At this moment, I am ready to put up. So am I going to invite you to a game? Or are you going to be sending me the invite?
I don't know how to send an invite. I might not even know how to accept an invite. I don't know.
Yeah, so when we get off the air, I will be have to take a quick run to the bathroom, and then I will.
I gotta fucking walk the dog and fire up the system. And if this works, and we do this, I challenge you to an on-the-air game.
No problem.
And it's got to happen, man. It's got to be done.
Well, if it happens and some of the other guys have a PS5 and they want to jump in, we can.
If any of these guys got PS5 or we can cross fucking play, they got an Xbox, get a league game going.
Sure.
Everybody seems to like a different team, so it'd be great.
Oh yeah, no, and you can start your own league. And so let me know if any guys have PS5 and play Madden. Huh?
You can't stack your team though.
No. I'm going to play whatever's on the computer, whatever's on my squad, I will play that team.
No. I'm not talking you. I'm talking, I could definitely see some guys saying, Atari. I can see some guys like trading for every 99 rated player in the league.
Yeah. Oh, man. Play what? We are going to play online against each other and play Madden. We have both of us have PS5, and you sign up and we can play online. So you can invite somebody in to play a game with you, that you have. So Frank, Jeff and I tonight are going to try this out, and it'll just be another way for us to hang out without, having to run into each other, which is harder and harder sometimes to do. We can sit in our houses, bitch and complain about our lives, and play games again with each other.
The best part is we've played 2 games in person so far.
Yes.
So I'm riding high on an undefeated streak.
Yeah. The first time he kicked the crap out of him, the second time I made him sweat. So you were sweating. You were sweating.
I think I won by like 13 points.
I was one good play away from taking that W, but that's all right. You did win. You won by 2 touchdowns. So that is our thing. So we'll be trying that out.
My defense has only gotten better.
Well, I to be honest, I have not picked up Madden. I've been playing hockey nonstop. I got into I have like NHL 21 or 22 or something, and my Rangers are 30-1 at this point. So,
Joe, learn the game, man. Learn the game.
Oh, learn the game. We'll invite you into the league, and we can play once a week. Do some
baseball game too.
I do have the baseball game again. I can't hit. I've tried. I've got. Which one do I have?
Show right, Major League 24.
I think I have 24. Yeah, I think I have 24.
I asked because 25 came out.
Yes.
And I'm not going to buy 25.
I can't hit 24.
Yeah, well, you got to come by one day when you get a chance. Yeah. Man. You got to play. I'll show you what to do as far as hitting. You got to drop the fucking level. If you don't drop the level,
I think I have, but maybe you can help me get. Frank, I agree. I haven't played in a long time, to be honest. It is so lifelike now. It is so real now. It is so cool to play.
Frank Jeffrey, it is so lifelike that when you play games during the cold weather months, I have Madden 2007. The whole offensive line, when they would breathe, they'd all breathe at the same time, and you see their breath at the same time. Now you see guys, like different guys are breathing at different times. Who blows out more smoke in the cold air? It's just so like the sweat on the guy's arms. in between plays, and so it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Do you see the little crumb rubber come up when they do a slide like on the turf sometimes? Do you ever see that?
Sure.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Oh,
the amount of time. That's why you pay what you do for these games.
Oh, absolutely.
The amount of time that's put into this.
No, it's great. Yeah, like I said, I play the updated version, but I've gone online and played some of the older. There's an arcade in Metuchen. They have them all over the place, but there's one by my son's house called Yestercades, and I've gone in there with my wife a couple times when you play some old video games. And I did one of the old hockey games on like the Nintendo system. You're like, holy cow! Look where we've gotten to at this point in time. And pretty soon it's going to be basically live players. But holy cow, it's
basically live players now. I really don't know how much more.
Oh my God, Jeffrey's too busy playing with us.
How much better could it get?
I know. Yeah. No, I don't know. You know what? That's a great question. But when you look back 5 years to where the technology is now, it's freaking amazing what you can do on these games. And now that I could go online and invite Jeff, and the two of us could play against each other, is pretty cool.
I don't know. I'm going to look it up right now. PS6. I heard about a PS6.
Oh no.
The possibility. PlayStation 6 expected price and release date.
Yeah, wow. I got the 5 up here. I was going to buy another 5 to put in Florida, so that when I go down there, I could play. When I was down there for a week, I couldn't play. I was like jonesing to play. But I'm like, who knows if I'm ever going to keep playing. So when I go down for long periods, I'm driving down, I take the system with me. Don't you sound like these games? Yeah. So
you know what you may want to look into, Tom?
Yeah.
There's this thing. I don't know how it works, but I know a guy I work with has it. It looks like a little portable PlayStation 5. It hooks up through the cloud or something to your PS5.
Oh, really?
And you could play the same games you got.
Oh, interesting.
Now, the only time that it stops, like say you want to access your game and you pause a game.
Right.
You're like, okay, I'm going to drive to Florida now, and I want to pick up this game when I get back down there. Then you have to leave your PS5 on or in rest mode. But like you'd have to look into that and investigate it more. It's like a portable PS5.
Really?
I saw, and it was cheap too. I think it was like less than $300 now.
Oh wow!
The guy got it, and he spent a lot of money on it. And then a couple months later, it went down a lot. But for me, he was like, oh yeah, you can do it. You got to be in front of the TV to play it. So why? But you got the PS5. Why you got that thing?
Yeah.
In front of the TV, but
yeah, I guess if I could buy it and take that with me to Florida and play my system through that, then it makes total sense.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'll look into that. I don't know. Again, I'm not a gamer. I barely can figure out the game sometime, but I want to try this because I think it's pretty cool. If you're sitting around the house and you're playing and I'm playing, we might as well just play together. So I think it'd be pretty cool. And if any of you guys, Joe, if you guys ever get the nudge to do it, we can actually start our own league and you'll get together and play once a week or set up something. But in the meantime, it's been a lot of fun doing the show. Make sure you go check out some of the old shows on YouTube. I'm going to spend a little time. I'm going to dig out some of the old shows that we did on Facebook and get them onto YouTube and stuff. I haven't done it in a while, but I will make that. It's very hard to transfer. Maybe Frank, Jeff, you can ask your son, how can I transfer shows from Facebook to YouTube? I could never get it done in the past. It's a pain in the ass to take shows and turn them into video, basically. So, Frank, you have a good night.
See you later, man.
But again, listen, it's been a great show. I love when everybody's up on the board and they're kind of jumping in. I was afraid we weren't going to have much to talk about tonight, but obviously we got through an entire show. So it's been a blast, Jeff. I mean, it's a good show.
Yeah, for me, the show wasn't as long as it was for you, being that my computer takes forever to fucking get on. I don't know.
Listen, it is what it is. Hopefully it gets better. You had a few weeks in a row where it ran great. We just got to make sure that for draft night you're on board because that's a big show. Joe Cloak, have a great night. And again, Joe, our condolences to your brother. We're out here for you. So, but again, guys, it was a good baseball show. Talked a lot of baseball. Talked a lot of football. We did a little George Foreman, and we did a little gaming with you. So we'll be back next week. This should be pretty smooth sailing for the show for the next couple of months. I don't have any plans or trips in the coming future, but you never know around here. So we'll see what happens. But I'll say thank you to everybody online, Joey and Frank and Corey and everybody else who tuned in tonight. I thank you all for doing that. Come back next Thursday night. We'll do this all over again at 7 o'clock and join Jeff and I. And enjoy the baseball season. Enjoy the great weather. So, Jeff, anything new show-wise? I know you put up a thing about some possible Remoron news. Anything we can announce?
Well, it's a long ways away, but Remorons, September 20th.
Wow.
Plugs.
That's a far off booking.
Yes, it is. It was John Esposito put up a picture and basically said, not pleaded, but he asked for the picture. It was like he made his plea for a show, and it was answered. It was time.
Okay.
The Morons will be back. We'll be back before September. You watch.
All right.
We got something else. Got a couple other irons in the fire. You could knock us out. Yeah. That's the best you can say about the Remorons. You can say you can knock us down, but we ain't out.
There you go. Well, keep it up. We got the middle-aged delinquents have been busy, and the Remorons will hopefully get busy, and then you never know. Maybe 25 missions will crank it up.
25 missions on May 31st.
Okay.
I got a bunch of shows from middle-aged delinquents on April 19th in Rockies in New Jersey. May 24th at the Trotters on Staten Island, May 31st at the Trotters on Staten Island, then another date in June with the Trotters, and then a couple more in Jersey. Things are going to start to heat up for the middle-aged delinquents very soon.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, great.
Well, either way, Jeff's having a good time. We'll be back next week. And in the meantime, I thank you all for tuning in tonight. I hope you have a great rest of your night, a great rest of your week, a great weekend, and a great next week. And please come on back when we do this all over again next Thursday night. So for Jeff Tomlinski, myself, and everybody here at Hard Rocket Sports, have a great night, folks. Have a safe week, and come on back and do it all over again with us next week. Hefe, I'll definitely send me a message when you're ready off the air.
Okay, this is my plan. I'm going to go to the bathroom myself, walk the dog. Probably about 9:15, I'll send you a quick text.
Okay, and we'll give it a shot. Yep.
All right.
You got it, my man. Good night, everybody.